She was nobody to them. Just another tired woman in line, wearing old jeans and a faded jacket that had seen better days. The TSA agent barely glanced up when she handed over her ID, already smirking at his colleague like they were in on some private joke. He scanned it with the kind of careless arrogance that comes from doing the same thing 1,000 times a day. But then the screen flashed red. Bright, urgent, unmistakable red. And in that split second, everything in that airport terminal changed forever. Her name was Sarah Mitchell, though nobody at Gate 27 knew that yet. They saw what people always saw. A woman in her late 30s with tired eyes and calloused hands, the kind of person you'd walk past without a second thought. She'd gotten used to being invisible. It was easier that way. Safer. The 17-hour layover in Denver was just another checkpoint in a journey that never really ended. Not since the day she came home from a place so far away, it might as well have been another planet. She wasn't wearing her uniform. She never did anymore. The medals stayed in a box under her bed, buried beneath old sweaters and memories she couldn't quite fold away. The agent's smirk vanished. His finger hovered over the screen as lines of text scrolled past, each one erasing another assumption he'd made. His colleague leaned in, squinting at the display, and the color drained from both their faces like someone had pulled a plug. "Ma'am," the first agent said, and his voice cracked on that single word. "Ma'am, we didn't—" He couldn't finish. Sarah just stood there, expressionless, her duffel bag hanging from one shoulder like it weighed nothing at all. She'd carried heavier things. So much heavier. Behind her, the line was getting restless. Someone muttered about holding everyone up. Another person checked their watch with theatrical irritation. They had places to be, connections to make, lives that couldn't wait for some random delay. But then a man in a military uniform, Army, judging by the patches, stepped out of line. He'd seen the screen. He'd seen what those agents were seeing. And he snapped to attention right there in the middle of the terminal, his hand raised in the sharpest salute Sarah had seen in years. The noise died. Just stopped, like someone had hit mute on the entire world. "Lieutenant Commander," he said, and his voice carried across that silent space like a prayer. Sarah's jaw tightened. She didn't want this. Didn't want the attention, the questions, the sudden shift from invisible to visible in the worst possible way. But the damage was done. Another traveler, a young woman with a baby on her hip, noticed the commotion and pulled out her phone. Within seconds she was typing, searching, and then her hand flew to her mouth. She'd found the articles. The old news stories that Sarah had spent years trying to outrun. "Oh my God," the woman whispered. That's her. The one from Kandahar." The TSA supervisor arrived, already apologizing, already fumbling with his words like they were live grenades. He was saying something about protocol, about upgraded seating, about making this right. But Sarah wasn't listening. She was back in the desert, feeling the weight of her gear and the weight of choices no human being should ever have to make. She was hearing the voices of her team, 7 souls who'd trusted her to bring them home. She'd kept that promise for 6 of them. The 7th was why she couldn't sleep anymore without seeing sand and blood in a sky so blue it hurt to look at. "Ma'am, please let us." The supervisor was practically begging now. But Sarah just shook her head. "I just want to get to my gate," she said quietly. Her voice was steady, controlled, the voice of someone who'd learned to keep everything locked down tight because if you started to crack, even a little, you might never stop. But the soldier who'd saluted her wasn't moving. He was maybe 22, fresh-faced and earnest, and he looked at her like she'd hung the moon. "You saved 16 people that day," he said. "My instructor at Basic told us about you. About what you did when the convoy got hit. How you went back." He paused and his eyes were shining. "You went back 3 times. Sarah felt something break inside her chest. A small thing like a bird bone snapping. She'd gone back because that's what you did. That's what the uniform meant. What the oath meant, even when the bullets were flying and every instinct screamed at you to run. She'd gone back because Corporal Danny Martinez was 20 years old and crying for his mother, and nobody deserved to die alone in the dust. She'd carried him 100 yards with shrapnel in her own leg, had held his hand while the medic worked, had promised him he'd be okay even though they both knew it was a lie. He'd believed her anyway. Or maybe he'd just been kind enough to pretend. The terminal was watching now. All of them. The businessman with the Bluetooth earpiece, the college kids with their backpacks, the elderly couple holding hands by the window. The TSA agents had stepped aside, and somewhere in the distance, Sarah could hear the subtle shift as words spread through the airport like ripples on water. She wanted to disappear, wanted to fold back into the shadows where heroes weren't supposed to look this ordinary, this broken. But the soldier was still standing there, still holding that salute, and she realized he needed this. Needed to believe that courage looked like something, that sacrifice meant something, that the stories they told in training weren't just stories. So Sarah straightened her shoulders, lifted her chin, and returned his salute with the precision of someone who'd earned every second of respect that gesture carried. "At ease, soldier," she said softly, and then she picked up her duffel bag and walked toward her gate, leaving behind a terminal full of strangers who'd never forget the invisible woman who turned out to be anything but. The screen had flashed red. But what they couldn't see, what no screen could ever show, was that Sarah Mitchell had been carrying red alerts in her heart for years. And she'd keep carrying them, one step at a time, until she finally found a way to put them down. Maybe today wouldn't be that day, but she'd keep walking anyway. Because that's what warriors do, even the ones nobody sees.